education. I'm actually a suicide and depression survivor. Now, when I say suicide, I didn't really try to commit suicide, but I had suicidal ideation during my divorce and severe clinical depression and all that, which I will talk about later. But sometimes you know how it is. You have to fall so far down. You have to see yourself as there's no other way to survive, to exist. And you ask that existential question, is this what I accept or I don't? When you make the choice to say, no, this is not the kind of life I want to lead, there will be ways that you pick yourself up. And one of the ways, like you said, is through the doors of humor, right? Humor and laughter and all that. But let me just start my, my thank you for you and Barbara for this amazing forum, Global Summit. And I wanted to extend a virtual hug to everyone because I'm so elated to be here talking to you heart to heart. Just saying heart to heart makes me feel so warm and fuzzy. So I hope that you're feeling really warm and fuzzy in your comfortable home. And I'm here to serve a very important, very deserving, but very vulnerable demographic of our population whose voice, I believe, must be heard and whose needs must be prioritized. We all can agree pretty much, right? 2020 is a year of breakdowns. And you know how it is whenever we are enduring a breakdown, when we are in the process of a breakthrough, there is tremendous anxiety, there is confusion, and there is the resentment that we see on the news, if we do watch the news. And there will be resistance and a lot of stress. So while we adults are so busy and so concerned thinking about how we sustain our jobs or create new opportunities, or we're trying to figure out how all kinds of things operate in the social distancing and self-quarantine kind of environment, a lot of people are watching us, little people, small young people, or confused teenagers. And so what they see so prevalently, either on media or in our own home, is a lot of discourse, is violence, right? From all the social, economic, and political crises everywhere in the world, in Paris, in India, in Hong Kong, and in Spain, in the States, obviously right now. So do they have the tools to process what they see? Why is all this happening? Why aren't people treating other people with respect, right? Basic courtesy and basic human decency. And we see an increase of domestic violence across the board, all over the world. And there's also the uncertainty of food and maybe safety for a lot of children. I basically watch, Trevor Noah every day because I am addicted to comedy. And I recall so many times during his, recent shows that he was making a call to action for people to donate to 2 programs in America because of the school closings everywhere. A lot of children, living in poverty are not getting their meals because they only get their meals in schools. As schools are being closed, they don't even get that. So, these some of these celebrities, they are calling for donations so that we get food to these needy children, right? So when you look at all this, the pandemic of suffering and all these disturbances and disruptions, we are looking at another pandemic, one of an emotional pandemic of PTSD, ADHD, and depression, and other social disorders, emotional dysregulation disorders. And all of those things I have had the misfortune or the fortune of going through or living or surviving. So I became very, very passionate about this particular demographic. And one of the people who has, helped me survive or recover is actually Dr. Gabor Mate. He's a world leading expert in childhood trauma and the relationship between childhood trauma and addictions, autoimmune diseases, and cancers, and all kinds of illnesses. And in his book, When the Body Says No, Kay, you were talking about how your body just gave out. and you weren't even able to tie your shoelace, right? And I think a lot of us, high functioning and multitasking, super busy women, probably have had, lots and lots of cases or memories when the body just tells you that the way you've been living is just not sustainable. And so I would like to draw your attention to a little presentation, okay? And because a picture is worth 1,000 words, so I'm going to share a little picture, collection of pictures that I have prepared for you all. Today, I'm here to talk to you about victimhood, how we can transform ourselves from a state of victimhood to victory and to vision. So I would like to ask Mr. Einstein to show us a very illuminating thought. He says that everything that exists in our lives exists because of two things. One is what you do, and one is what you don't do, or what you did, or what you did not do. So let that sink in for a minute. Everything that exists in our lives, okay, does so because of what we did or what we did not do. So we are the cause of our problems, okay? COVID-19 happened, or certain social unrest happened, or a loss of job happened. Is it because it happened to me, or it happens? Does life happen to me, or does life just happen, right? So you see how on top I have a little equation, and it's like E plus R equals O. Now, this is not an equation that Einstein wrote. This is actually created by my mentor, Jack Canfield. And I will explain what E and R and O means later. But if you know anything about Jack Canfield, he's one of the most premier world figures in the self-empowerment space. He's the author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. And just a couple of months ago, we were, as Jack Canfield trainers, we were watching a video that he released for us at the age of 75, as successful as he is. He was still ironing out something, some kind of a childhood, trauma that he had endured when he was about 10 years old. Now we're talking about a guru, a well-leading healer, and he's still working on something that happened in his childhood. So this is why I want you to really think about when there is an event, that's what the E stands for. What is your response? Because your response and the event together creates the outcome. They create the outcome, not the event itself, but it's your response. Your response creates the outcome. So I want you to look at these pictures. Do we want to live in victimhood? If there is a hood, if you're buying property, would you buy a property in victimhood? Probably not, right? Or would you rather stay and live and be in victory lane? Do you feel like you are a winner? Or even better, would you find yourself in vision land? Right? Imagine you're building a house. Wouldn't you like to build it on vision land? Sounds a lot better, doesn't it? So how do we go from a stage of victimhood, or if I can quote Dr. Yu Huda, who's a doctor from the School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. He was talking about trauma with a panel of experts, and he was saying that we must prepare children with the resources to cope with adversity, so that when they do happen, children are not in shock. They are prepared to handle the adversities and the trauma. We know that we cannot avoid trauma, and we cannot avoid the stress of change. And in the fourth industrial revolution, that will be just coming up, and keep coming up, right? Stress and uncertainty and all that. So how do we equip our children with the tools to deal with them, to predict and to cope, so that they don't end up being victims? And so here today, I just so love the topic of our summit. How can we co-create a future that gives children all these tools. And I really believe it has to do with education. It has to do with prioritizing life skill education and making it as important as IT skills, right? We know that the World Economic Forum has been advertising that IT skills would be the most important skill set in 2030, while social emotional skills, intelligence skills, being the second most important skill set. And if I can be a policy changer, I would definitely make them parallel. While I cannot be a policymaker, I can be the leader of an NGO. I can be the creator of a program. And you can be the mother and the supportive spouse in your home and in your community, really reinforcing life skills. Like what? Like resilience, like agility, like collaboration, and empathy. That's why I want to talk about race with you. Okay, RACE, standing for race. Now, to help me tell this story, when we do implement and preach and teach, okay, race, what will happen? I'm going to bring out a Hillary Yip. That's the name of this young teenager. She's from Hong Kong, and she's quite famous in the world of young entrepreneurship, teen entrepreneurs. She's been featured on CNN and BBC, and she's been on, Gary V's, shows and interviews. And the reason why she's so successful is because she created this app, language learning app that's international, that allows children from all over the world to chat and talk in real time on the app. And so when we look at her success, we are like, wow, how did she manage to learn to do that at such a young age? She's only 14 and she's already so accomplished. Well, the story goes like this actually with her. She was being bullied at school because of self-image, because she looks like more like a geek than, like Kay, you were talking about, self-image, right? She didn't look like or act like, all the other girls from, rich families. So after she got bullied, she started picking her hair out and she started self-harming. And when her mother found that there's just no way she could exist in that kind of an environment and grow up being a healthy adult, she took Hillary out and started homeschooling her. And it's during this homeschooling, with great parental support, with her own resilience, and with her own agility in thinking, that she found this opportunity to create this, language learning app. And so she has transformed herself from a victim to a winner and a visionary. And she is enjoying a lot of success. So what I want to see is more and more children and teenagers going through this, journey. If they already find themselves as a victim, if they identify themselves as a victim, they know that there are skills, solid skill sets that they can use and habituate and practice to get themselves out of that situation. And another story I like to actually share with you is my own. And years ago, I was born as a child who has a very, very dysfunctional GI tract. So I spent my first 10 years of my life in the doctor's office all the time. However, emotionally, I was very vivacious, I was very resilient and very strong. One day that all changed as my mother passed away suddenly. And part of her passing has to do with depression, manic depression. But it really didn't matter to a child, because that death, that disruption, that gross, source of crisis was so big that it just shocked me out of my equilibrium. And I started losing my voice altogether. I hardly spoke at home. I couldn't cry. I couldn't laugh. So when my body went into this kind of shock, and in my family, while there was always love, but there wasn't a habit or a culture or the belief of sharing emotions. Then I went into 7 years of an autoimmune, breakdown. My whole system went through 7 years of severe hive. And the hive would just come on full range, full body, anytime, anywhere. So I remember as a teenager praying to the gods, to the heavens. Whenever I had swimming lessons, please stop, give me 2 hours, please give me 2 hours. Don't let me look like a freak. Don't let me suffer in front of my friends, almost naked because I'm wearing my swimsuits, right? But of course, more stress will come because I'm stressed out. I was stressed out. So 7 years of that, thankful to music, thanks for my music teachers giving me opportunities, and and myself actually being kind of a hothead, a rebel. I just knew that I was better than suffering. I was better than being a victim. So even though I was very unhappy all the time, I started using musical performance and also elocution and other, school activities to leverage, human connection and emotional sharing. And so when I graduated from high school, I recovered. So resilience and collaboration, also self-empathy, are very important tools. Now, later on, as I became more and more successful in my career, something from my childhood, trauma, and from my emotional dysregulation, and also from my PTSD, continue to stop me from having, a good relationship with myself. And so it kind of, affected my marriage. And it was during my divorce that I sank back into victimhood all the way to the bottom. I started self-harming and I started losing weight. I was 89 pounds. Can you imagine a full-grown woman? No matter how small my frame is, 89 pounds is just ridiculous, right? I was very sick. I was unable to process food. I had no appetite. But long story short, I found out about laugh therapy, and I started watching comedy every night at bedtime. Now, and I also started learning like mad. I read and read like a maniac. So I started knowing a lot more about subconscious programming, and also how the subconsciousness really dictate our behavior, so much so that 90% of what we do, how we think, is from our subconscious, which is our childhood programming in the first 7 years of our lives. So long story short, if we really give children all these tools, we start with something easy, RACE, just 4 things, 4 areas to focus on. And then as they grow up, as they get involved, as they, travel around, when they collaborate with different people of different races and different life experiences, as their empathy increases and their communication skills get honed, they are going to be on a path of self-regulation and, having the ability to iron out trauma, ironing out stress. And we want to see generations of leaders. That's one of the reasons why this is a women heart-to-heart platform, because we want to see more and more girls and teenagers like Greta Thunberg, right, becoming leaders. So leaders need tools, they need skills. So I hope that after hearing my stories, you would try to raise your RACE at your home with your, work teams and with your communities. And together, I believe we can shift education and really create more leaders, female leaders for the world. So thank you.